Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Discover how to go from side hustle to multi-million pound business with our expert today, Ron Douglas. And he is the $1 million mentor with 40 successful companies. He's helping business owners to fast track to their first $1 million. With 40 successful exits, he can help business owners prepare and get the most out of a successful exit. My first question is, what's the secret to your success?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I would say probably the secret really is that the secret is there is no secret. And I think that's if you're sitting here listening to this, you already have the skills. I can guarantee you, if you can read and write and you've had a couple of jobs, you literally already have the skills to be a multimillionaire.
Okay. And what's your blueprint to become an awakened titan?
I think the first thing is people need to realize that there's no difference between them and a multimillionaire. They put their pants on the same way. There's no difference. The only difference is they managed to put the puzzle pieces in the right places, and you just haven't figured out how to put those puzzle pieces in the right place just yet. That's the only difference.
And how can we do that? Put the puzzle pieces in the right places?
Well, the first thing you can do is quit wasting your time trying to figure it out yourself, and find a mentor, whether it's me, you, somebody that's already done it. That's the problem. That's the problem with this industry. I can tell you that I've learned is find somebody that's actually already done it and can prove it and has done it over and over again, not just one time. Don't find a 23-year-old mentor online that says that he's a Twitter expert. I mean, the kid's 23 years old. He doesn't have life experience yet. Why are you paying this person? This guy has never had a hard thing, in his life. Find somebody that's a warrior, that's been through the hard stuff, that's been through the trenches, that's already figured it out, that's lost everything, gained everything, whatever, but is the real deal. Find somebody like that. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and have already spent thousands of dollars on courses or programs from somebody that has no experience.
Thank you. And what's your blueprint to become awakened?
I think in order to be awakened, well, first of all, you have to decide that this is the path, and you have to probably the best advice I can give people is there's 100 different ways to become a millionaire. All right, there's 1,000 different ways. There's 100,000 different ways to become a millionaire. Pick one mentor and follow them. It's just like anything else that you do in life. If you go to a mechanic and you ask a mechanic, it's Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, which one's the best? If you ask 100 mechanics, you're going to get 100 different answers. Okay, they're not all wrong. Okay. The problem is too many people are looking for that success, and they spend so much time looking for it and taking advice from 20 different people from 20 different scenarios and 20 different backgrounds that they are just confused on which way to go. Like there's a saying out there, for instance, that we talked about it as the title of this podcast, that side hustles are a way to get to $1 million, multi-million dollars. And then there's also people out there that'll tell you the side hustles are a waste of time. Both are right and both are wrong. It depends on your scenario and which way you want to go. in your life. Nobody knows your circumstances. And so you have to find a mentor that's willing to focus on your circumstances and the route you want to go.
Thank you. And how do you go from having 1 or 2 clients to having your first 1,000?
1 or 2 clients to your first 1,000? Oh, I guess, man, that's a big that's a can of worms question right there, because it depends on what you're doing. It's like anything else. It depends, right? Are you trying to get into real estate? Are you trying to do what I'm doing, where I'm coaching? Let's just say you're trying to do what I'm doing. I would say that you would focus on finding people with audiences and being on their podcasts. It's a whole lot easier to be on 100 different podcasts and reach 100 different audiences than it is for me to start my own podcast, and focus on and trying to create my own audience. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. And how do you go from 0 to Titan? What steps are there to go from 0 to Titan?
I would say accountability, showing up every day, would be one for sure. I keep seeing in your background here, different books popping up and stuff like that. I would for sure say, pick a good solid 3-4 books, and focus on reading those, focus on following them, implementing. Here's another thing, a little piece of advice for people is, I've read hundreds of success books, and I see so many people trying to follow everything that success book gave them. But again, that success book was written for the mass, and they don't know your circumstances. So it's up to you to just cherry pick 3 ideas out of that book that help you with your scenario now. And that's what I do, is when I read a book, I'm not trying to follow it A to B, A to Z, and trying to do everything that book tells me to do. Because that book doesn't know my circumstances. That book doesn't know where I'm at on my journey. That book doesn't know anything about me. So I read that book and I say, how can I implement 3 things in this book into my journey today? And that's what I do.
Thank you. And how do you turn a side hustle into a multi-million pound business?
And so I've seen a lot of people doing side hustles. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of side hustles. I like to just jump. I'm a jump off the plane and build my parachute on the way down kind of guy. I really am. I figure it out. I just jump out and take off. But side hustles are great for people that have families. Not everybody's ready to do. I've done it so many times. I'm not scared to jump out of the plane. Does that make sense? And build my parachute on the way down, because I've done it so many times and I know what I'm capable of. If this is your first time and you're not sure, nothing wrong with a side hustle. Do your side hustle until your side hustle is exceeding what you're making at work. And then once your side hustle is doing that, and here's another good reason why a side hustle is good, is because you don't know what you don't know. And you don't know what you don't like until you do it. Flipping cars, for instance, which is what I did when I flipped classic cars for my first business. If you don't know that you don't like it or don't know, you don't know anything about it until you do it. To do is to know. Remember those 4 words. To do is to know. Well, how many words? Anyway, 5, 6 words, whatever. What I mean by that is you don't know if you're going to like something until you actually do it. And that's a good reason why a side hustle works, is because you can do a side hustle and go, this really isn't for me. Boom, you can back out and go find a different one. But if you find one that takes off and you really like it, and you're not just showing up because the money's good, but you're showing up because you really enjoy it, then that's the side hustle for you. And then you can take off, and then you can make that your main run.
Thank you. And what specific advice do you have for entrepreneurs building a multi-million pound business?
Well, that's a that's a broad question too. Specific advice that I have. Again, I would find a mentor. I would not waste time trying to figure out how to do it yourself. It's so there's so many trails, and there's so many side um, distractions that can get you out of focus on your core run. I would also say that make sure to write down your goal and focus on 6 months. Don't go too far. 6 months from now, I want this car, I want this house, I want this, these are my business goals, blah, blah, blah. Write that down and keep it on the wall right there. And so you can focus on getting there and not get distracted. I mean, so many people get tied up in distractions. We call it the squirrel scenario. They see a squirrel, boom, and they take off and go in the wrong direction. So, focus on what you originally what your original goal is. It's okay to change a few things along the way, but there's too many people out there that lose focus.
Thank you. And how can you help to overcome overwhelm for creative entrepreneurs who have 1,000 ideas every single day?
Well, that's easy. That's easy. You write down everything you would like to do. Okay. Write them all down, and then say, if I could wave a magic wand and make one of these come true tomorrow, only one, which one would it be? And that's the one you focus on. Once you know that idea will pop up in you create that list. I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Okay. And then if I could make a magic wand and make one of these happen tomorrow, which one would that be? And you're like, one will stand out to you. And when that one stands out, that's the one we focus on. That's the one we go after.
Thank you. And are you saying don't do too many things because that will lead to failure?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. So yeah, always focus, take your time, focus on it, achieve it, move to the next one. Take your time, focus on it, achieve it, and move to the next one.
Thank you. And how did you become a Titan? How did you grow? Did you come from money, or how did you have the initial funds to grow into this multi-million dollar empire?
No Titan here. I did not come from money. That's for sure. When I was working in the prison as a prison guard, and I worked death row in Texas. And so I was making $1,000 a month. This is back in 1995, 96. And to show you how old I am, I was like 95. I was making $1,000 a month, working death row. When I quit, I had $40 in the bank account, and I had 2 weeks before rent was due. And my wife's like, what are we going to do? And so, no, I did not come from money. But I did come from a place of desperation, because I knew I didn't want to work at the prison anymore. I was sick of fighting. I was sick of being in the prison half my life, and so I had a really strong desire to get the heck out of there. And so when I got out, or when I quit, got out sounds like I was in prison. But when I quit the prison, I was very motivated not to go back and not to get a different job. And so I focused 100% on one thing, and that was it. And I knew a guy. And it sounds simple now, but it wasn't simple back then, because I didn't know. But I knew a guy in Minnesota who had traveled down to Texas and handed out his business card and said that he was looking for classic cars that were rust free. That's my only lead. That was the only thing I had. I went home and I got that business card, and I called that guy and I said, "What kind of car are you looking for?" And he told me, and I just went out and started driving around looking for those cars. And when I found them, I called him and said, "Hey, this is what I found." I'll never forget the first one, 69 Roadrunner. I had to ask the owner of the car if I could make a long distance phone call from his house phone because I didn't have a cell phone or anything. And I went in there and I made the call, and I called this guy in Minnesota. I said, "Hey, Steve," I'll never forget his name, Steve Nolan. I said, "Hey, Steve, I found this '69 Roadrunner you're looking for." And I explained the car to him, dent here, scratch here, whatever, And he says, "Yeah, sounds like the car I'm looking for." He says, "How much do you want for it? Or how much does the guy want for it?" And I put my hand over the phone and said, "Hey, how much do you want for it?" And he said, $1,500. I said, "He wants $3,200." And he goes, "Okay, I'll wire you the money." And that's it. I made $1,700, and that was almost twice as much as I made at the prison in a month with one phone call. And I knew right then that's what I was going to do. I knew I would, and I built my first $1 million within 2 years from that. I was 24, and I made my first million by the time I was 26.
Thank you. So what did you make your first $1 million with? Selling cars?
Yep, selling classic cars. So he owned a big wrecking yard. I think they still own it, honestly. Up in Minnesota, he owned one of the largest wrecking yards in Minnesota, and I was selling classic cars to him. But then I started selling classic cars to people in New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, Germany, and I went from selling, one or two classic cars to selling 18-wheeler loads of classic cars all over the world. And yeah, it was pretty crazy time. I sold a crap ton of cars, and then I decided that that it was time to move on and do something different. But yeah, that was my first. I made my first million doing that, selling classic cars and parts all over the world.
Thank you. And how did you go from that to helping entrepreneurs to build their first $1 million sales?
Well, for a long time, people asked me my advice, and I didn't give very much advice, to be honest with you. I'll be honest. I didn't feel over the years, I didn't feel like I was the person to do that. I didn't feel like a good mentor because I felt like I was still figuring it out myself. And I never wanted to be that fake guru. You know what I mean? And I know everybody knows the type. The person that ain't done anything, and they're up in front of the room talking to everybody like they did something, and they ain't done anything. And so I didn't want to be that person. And finally, it was only a couple of years ago, really, to be honest with you. Finally, my wife comes up to me and she grabs me by my head, and she looks at me and she goes, and she forces my eyes to look into her eyes, and she says, "Babe, you've done over 40 companies." She goes, "I think you've proven yourself now. It's okay to give advice." And she was right. It's like, okay, I've done this. I've made millions of dollars now at this point, and I've built several companies into the multi-million-dollar range. Yeah, I can do this. And so I went ahead and started mentoring giants and decided I wanted to help, 100 people get to their first $1 million.
Thank you. And what kind of companies did you build that reached multi-million dollars?
Man, everything. I'm not scared of it because it's kind of the same scenario, right? It's find a customer, find what they want, and give it to them. And so there isn't a business I haven't done. I mean, I've done blue collar, I've done white collar, I've done internet-based businesses, I've done internet sales, I've had, I've done just about everything. There really isn't a business out there or industry out there that I probably haven't tapped into at one point or another.
Thank you. Could you be more specific about the type of business? I mean, like, what was it? Like gardening, coaching? Like what specifically you mean by blue collar?
I had a greenhouse company where I manufactured greenhouses and shipped them all over the United States. I had a solar company. I've had, and that was the solar company was internet based. It was an internet website, and I was selling through that. I did a classic car thing. I've done an auto transport company where I was transporting cars. I've owned a cleaning company. I've owned a landscaping company. I owned a wildlife company where I was dealing with wildlife. I've owned a lot of service-based businesses because they're easy and they're quick, and it's easy to turn those into $1 million companies. I mean, it doesn't take much at all now at this point. I mean, I've done it so many times now; it doesn't take much. But I've done a lot of service-based businesses. I've done, helped guys with restaurants. I've tapped into that market. Heck, I helped a guy with a bicycle shop. I helped a guy with a training school for pilots, bush pilot training schools. Um, yeah, I mean, man, between what I've done and the people that I've helped with their businesses, there really isn't a business that I haven't worked on.
Thank you. And what tools and techniques can entrepreneurs use in order to find the demand in the market before they create the product or the service?
Man, just keep it simple. Everybody tries to overcomplicate everything. Keep it simple. If you want to find demand, okay, here's a prime example. I think I used this the other day when I was being interviewed, and it was a good example. Is I bought a solar company from a guy, and I was selling products, but I was selling products, and I didn't understand why I was selling. I sold solar equipment to a guy in Florida, and I sold solar equipment to a guy in Wyoming. And I remember one day I just said, yeah, I'm just going to call these guys. So I just grabbed the phone and I picked up the phone and I called the guy in Florida and I said, why did you buy this equipment? And he said, well, I own a yacht. I own a sailboat. He owned a sailboat and I needed the solar and the lighting, the LED lighting for my sailboat. And I said, so you're putting the kits together to have lights at night and batteries and all this stuff? He goes, yeah, yeah, on your sailboat. He goes, yeah, yeah. And he goes, and then I have a fridge. He bought a fridge from us, and it's like a 12-volt fridge. And I said, and then that's for your sailboat as well. He goes, yeah. And I said, okay. So then I understood, and I said, well, I need to first of all tap into the sailing industry, and I need to create a kit for sailboats. And so we created a sailboat kit, that had lights, refrigerator, and an air condition and solar panels that I could sell to them that they could adapt to adapt to a sailboat. And then I called the guy in Wyoming and I asked him why he was buying it. And he told me the opposite. He's like, I own a ranch and my cows are out in the middle of nowhere and I need water. He goes, I got wells, but I don't have solar. So we've set up these solar panels to the well pump and it pumps the water up and gives the cows water. Perfect. I'll put a kit together. And so I put a kit together for all the ranchers. It was called the ranch kit, and it delivered water for their cows, without them being there. And so, yeah, you got to understand your customers. You got to understand what they want and give it to them. That's all they want. Same with you. I mean, if you want something, you want to pick up your phone, dial the number, and get it. That's it. I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to order my solar panels from here and order my well pump from here and order my, the wiring kit from here. I just want to call and get it done. And it's the same thing. I mean, deliver what the customer is wanting. I mean, so many people create a product. They do it the wrong way. They create a product that they think they think the market wants, and then they try to force it on people that don't want it. That's the wrong way to do it, is find something that people want and then just deliver it to them in a perfect package, and they will buy it up. No problem.
Thank you. And how do you find what people want? So, for example, I know you can use Google Keyword Planner and you can find that there are certain searches, like 10,000 or 100,000 searches for a particular keyword or, product or something that people want. But what tools do you use to make sure that you find something to sell that people want?
Do it the old-fashioned way. I just get on the phone and I call them. What is it you're wanting? I mean, like when I called the guy on the sailboats, for instance, I didn't just end with him and make one phone call and end it there. I called a guy that I looked up the sailboat club of Miami or something like that, and called the president and talked to them. And then I asked him, and then he says, yeah. He goes, you know what? I got 4 or 5 guys that are looking for something like that. I said, can you give me their numbers? What are you looking for? What exactly do you want? What do you need for your sailboat? Oh, I need this, this, and that. And I send them a link. Does this work? Would this work? Would this work? And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Oh, perfect. Package. Boom. I put it together in a package, and then I say, okay, how does this look? I use a test sample of, I don't know, a dozen people or less, and figuring out what this industry wants. But I pick people that are heavily in that industry. Like I said, I called the president of the yacht club or the sail club or whatever. And when I talked to the rancher, I did the same thing. I said, well, you're a rancher. How many other ranchers you know in Wyoming? I know them all. I go to I'm head of the Wyoming Ranchers Association. Great. I said, give me 3 or 4 numbers and let me call these guys. And they all wanted the same thing, and another problem that they have is their water freezes up there because it's in Wyoming. And so when we created the solar package, it was a Wyoming specific or a northern package, and it had a heater in it to keep the water warm so that the water wouldn't freeze over, so that they didn't have to go over there and bust the ice. And they loved it. All of them bought it. They're like, "Oh, this is what I've been needing." Okay, only because I called and I asked, and they told me that. Oh yeah, He goes, yeah, it's great. He goes, these automations are great until they freeze over. Oh, I didn't know that. What do you mean they freeze over? And he told me that, yeah. So then I found the little heating element that ran off a 12 volt that ran off the solar panel. We tested it out. It worked, and sold it in the package. And they bought the package up. I mean, I sold thousands of those kits.
Thank you. And do you use affiliate marketing? What I mean is, for example, when you call up the president of an organization with your ideal target market, do you offer them a commission, or is it something else that they're getting that they're just getting their problem solved? That's enough for them.
I mean, I would. If they asked for it, I'd probably give it to them. But I mean, most of the time they're just trying to solve a problem too, and if you're just upfront and open and talking to them, they'll give you the information for free. You can walk up to any entrepreneur. Very few entrepreneurs would not share their secret with you for free. I mean, just walk up and ask them, hey, how did you do this? They will gladly tell you how I built this business. I mean, very rarely have I ever seen a business owner that, keeps it close to the vest and won't share their secrets, People want to share. People want to help other people. There is nothing wrong with sharing this stuff, and people are willingly doing it all the time. I mean, like I said, I see in the background all these books that are popping up. I'm sure every one of these people have done it, and they're sharing their advice. I mean, people love to share. People love to help other people, and so don't be scared to ask. That's part of the. I think that's part of the problem is everybody's scared to ask. I'll walk up to a multimillionaire. I don't have a problem. Hey, how did you do that? I'll ask him. What kind of numbers did you do? What kind of numbers what kind of employees did you have? How hard was it? And I'll pick their brain. I don't care. I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. Do you have any awakened Titan habits that enabled you to build this multi-million dollar business?
Yeah. The one thing I do or used to do, I guess I don't do it too much anymore because I'm kind of retired, but I would wake up every morning and I would journal about where I wanted to be, not where I was, but where I wanted to go. And so I would sit down with my journal and I would say, okay, these are the things I need to do today to accomplish my goals. And I would literally journal about it. I need to call so-and-so. I need to do this. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you would unlock all these things that you need to do that you didn't even realize you need to do. I would say, yeah, I need to call so-and-so. I need to call the sailboat president in Miami and pick his brain. And then before you know it, the next day, I need to call these 5 people that he gave me numbers to and ask them their questions. And then, I need to research that heating element from Wyoming and find a heating element that'll keep the water from freezing for these Wyoming ranchers. And it just goes on and on and on. And if you journal about what you're going to do instead of what you've already done, it's amazing what doors open for you ahead of you. Does that make sense? It just starts presenting itself to you.
Thank you. And which experience awakened your drive to achieve success and make a difference?
These are good questions. Let's see. What experiences awakened my drive? Not wanting to spend half my life in prison, that's for sure. Um, I mean, literally, I mean, how stupid was I? Think about this. This is how slow I was. First of all, I never graduated high school. I never met my first entrepreneur until I was in my 20s. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was, nor did I know how to spell the word. And I was working in the prison, and I'm sitting there thinking, I thought to myself one day, after hundreds of fights, been in hundreds of fights, hundreds of hand-to-hand fights. I've been in riots. I've been in all this crap. I'm sitting there looking, and I'm thinking, this guy is here because he got caught, and he's stuck in prison. I'm here for $1,000 by choice. What kind of idiot chooses to spend half their life in prison? I think the only difference between him and I is he has to be here, and I get to go home in the evening. But I chose to be here. I'm still choosing to spend half my life. And once I realized, once that clicked for me, I couldn't stay there anymore. I had to get out of there. I was like, man, who in their right mind would choose to spend half their life in prison for $1,000 a month? I was like, get me the heck out of here. And so, that was motivation for sure.
Thank you. And how did your awakening influence your business strategy? Did it make you more motivated? Did it kind of give you this impulse to succeed or to make more calls?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was, the pendulum swings, right? And so, it actually almost cost me my marriage, to be honest with you, because I didn't know how to control it. Once I understood I could make my own money and I didn't need a boss, I literally was gone all the time. I took off and I was working, boom, 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 and I was making money. We had rolls of money, I had cash, and I had cash everywhere. I had money in my pockets. I had money in my center console, my truck. I had money in my glove box. I had money coming out of my ears. I mean, we were rolling. And man, I'm sitting there driving around in a brand new truck thinking I'm just Mr. Cool. And I'm not at home. I'm not spending time at home because I'm focusing on this. I'm building this empire, right? And so I swung the complete opposite end where now my wife's like, well, where are you and what are you doing? And I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. You're driving all over the Texas buying all these cars and I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. And so I had to, just like anybody else, I had to figure it out. I was like, okay, well, now I'm spending way too much time making money. I need to come back and figure out how to do some family time here. And so I had to find my way along the way. But once for me, the motivation was, my dad was in the Army. He was 22 years in the Army. So I grew up on military bases. I grew up, everybody around me was join the Army, work 20 years, retire. And that was everybody's mentality. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I only thought business owners were uber rich, and I didn't know how to touch, I'll never own a business because I'm not uber rich. And I didn't understand that my mentality was, if you want money, you go to work, get a job, go to work. But once I realized I could make it without a boss, I didn't need a boss to make my own money. I was like, and that unlocked everything for me. And I took off, man. It was off to the races for me.
Thank you. And how did balancing your marriage and, spending time with family help you to go from side hustle to multi-million-dollar business?
Well, that's a good one because most people don't realize this, but I have 8 kids. And so, Yeah, me and my wife, we've had 8 kids. We've been, yes, same marriage, yes, and all that, yeah. And so we have, I realized a long time ago, well, not a long time ago, honestly, it's taken a while to figure it out, but I realized that family really is the focus. And as long as I was taking care of family, the business would take care of itself. And I didn't have to sit here and worry all day and night about business. When it was time for family time and it was time to spend time with my family, I focused on my family. And I didn't worry about the business. And what that did was it gave me a reset that I didn't realize I needed. And so it gave me different perspectives. I mean, there were some times where I'm sitting there stressing about a problem that I haven't been able to figure out. And I'm sitting on the couch playing with my kids, and my daughter says something, and whatever she said just happened to click for whatever my business problem was. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. I could use that as that in my business. And before you know it, I solved my problem. And so, yeah, a lot of times people don't realize how bad of a reset they need. They just need to go home, spend time with their family, and forget about the business.
Thank you. And what's your legacy message to entrepreneurs worldwide?
There isn't anybody out there that does not have the skills to be a millionaire. I am a firm believer. If you're flipping burgers at McDonald's, you have the skills already to be a millionaire. If you are delivering Uber Eats, you have the skills already to be a millionaire. You just don't have the puzzle pieces in the right place yet. You need to find somebody to help you get those in the right place. But everybody has the skills to be a millionaire.
Thank you. So what I'm getting from you is get the right mentor, and you can turn your life around and turn your side hustle into a multi-million-dollar business.
Absolutely, 100%.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.